the biggest success element for your comparison page is choose one thing, one main idea to highlight about your product, and then go all in with that on your comparison page.
Before we jump into today's episode, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free. And now, back to today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SaaS SEO Show. I'm your host, George Casiotis, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Federico Jorge. Federico is a conversion copywriter with a passion for competitive marketing. His love for marketing started with classic campaigns like Avis, We Try Harder. As Federico focused his career on SaaS companies, he found an untapped opportunity. He combined his love for competitive marketing and tech and founded Stack Against to help SaaS products stand out in a crowded marketplace and tell buyers what makes them unique to their competitors via comparison pages. Since launching Stack Against in 2021, Federico and his team have helped companies like FreshBooks, Cloudways, and Signaturely steal leads from big players like QuickBooks, VP Engine, and DocuSign. Federico, welcome to the SaaS SEO Show.
Hey, Georges. Thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you for the intro. And yeah, that's what we do at Stack Against, comparison pages.
That's great. We will talk a lot about comparison pages and this whole competitive marketing thing. But before we do, could you please share a few things about you and your background? This is a question that, it's pretty standard here at the SaaS SEO. So let's start with your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been a copywriter. I studied copywriting and advertising back at school. And I started working at different agencies. I even founded my own agency back in Argentina a few years ago already. And then I wanted to jump to like a different kind of challenge. I wanted to work with bigger clients and more challenging projects. And then somewhere around 2015, 2017, I started freelancing on my side. I closed the agency at some point. And I niched down to work with SaaS companies only. I fell in love with SaaS the minute I knew about it, about the space. I like technology, and I feel like I'm pretty. I have a natural inclination to explaining tech in simple ways. So I chose SaaS as my niche, and I started freelancing with different SaaS companies. And then just by chance, a few of my my clients wanted me to do comparison pages, and by trial and error, I ended up with a very solid process that got me from A to C in terms of writing these comparison pages. So suddenly I knew how to do the research, how to do the copywriting, how to do the strategy, and how to do the design for the pages as well, even though I'm not a designer, but I would partner up with designers to complete the pages. And kind of like I had that light bulb moment, and I went, I should package this up and start a company that only does comparison pages. And that's when the idea of Stack Against was born. And I started kind of like sharing that with my network, and then officially launching the company.
So you run Stack Against, which is a service that does comparison pages. My first question, I guess, would be, what are comparison pages, and why are they important for SaaS companies?
Cool. We're very passionate about comparison pages at Stack Against. You probably figured that out. But we believe comparison pages are very, very important. And a lot of SaaS companies are doing them and are publishing these, so it kind of like validates that idea. And we believe they're very important because they answer a critical question in the buying journey. So when somebody is evaluating a product because they have a problem, they need to go out and find a solution, right? And when they're evaluating their options, they might find anywhere from 2 to 20 different alternatives to solve that problem. And that creates a lot of anxiety for buyers because they don't know which option is going to be the best fit for them. They have their money, they want to spend it right. They don't want to make the wrong choice. They don't want to make a choice that 6 months from now, they have to change to a different product, migrate, move all the effort that they put into a specific product and then move into a different platform. So that decision, even though we make those decisions every day, and especially for B2B buyers, creates a lot of friction, right? So buyers want to be as sure as they can be that they're choosing the right option for them at that point. And comparison pages answer that question for them, or at least give them insights on how to make that decision. Because when I need a CRM and I'm thinking about, should I choose HubSpot or Salesforce, it's because I still haven't made that decision in my head yet. And I go to these pages to try and get that answer. So if you can do that research for your clients, and if you can tell your biggest or your best fit buyers why they should choose you, then you're helping them jump ahead and add you to their decision shortlist, and just by telling them why they should choose you.
I understand. Would you say that companies, SaaS companies, after a certain stage, need comparison pages? Or, I mean, a pre-product market fit SaaS company, very early stage, very small customer base, need comparison pages as well? I mean, I guess my question is there a certain level after which you advise creating comparison pages?
Yeah, I think I understand your question. And the answer comes from different angles. I'm assuming that the reason you asked this question is maybe because a lot of new challenger companies, they publish their sites and they include these comparison pages. And I believe that the reason behind that is that comparison pages tend to rank pretty well if you know how to execute them. And if there's traffic, if there's volume around those keywords, those comparative keywords like your product versus product B or product B alternatives, right? You're going to be driving traffic to these pages and they're going to convert. They tend to convert higher than your usual landing page. So having them as a new company makes sense because they tend to be effective if you know how to execute them. But at the same time, I would say it depends, because I think one of the key aspects of having an effective comparison page is that you know who you need to attract, you know who is your best possible buyer, and you call them out with your comparison pages, especially if you're comparing against a competitor that maybe targets a slightly different segment of the market, right? So let's say you are a better fit for SMBs and your biggest competitor is a better fit for enterprise companies, right? If you highlight that on your comparison page, chances are you're gonna do a good job at attracting SMBs to your solution instead of sending them to your competitor. But the problem is, if you're a new company, you might not have a very clear idea of who's your best buyer. So your messaging might be off. And that, I think that is a problem for new companies across all their marketing. They're testing a lot of messaging. They're seeing what sticks. They're searching for product market fit. So comparison pages can kind of like stumble with those challenges as well. But I would say it would make more sense, or these pages would prove more effective once you've found product market fit and you know who you should be talking to and who is your best buyer that you need to be attracting with these comparison pages. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Can I ask you, why do SaaS buyers search for competitor terms online? For example, is it because they have reached a switching moment, or they are, way before that, and they have identified two solutions as the most prominent solutions exactly. In this category, and they are just comparing them? I mean, what is your experience here? Why and when, let's say, SaaS buyers search for competitor terms online?
Yeah, great question. I think it comes from three different places. One is users that are frustrated with their current solution, and they still need a similar solution, but they don't want to use the same product that they're using right now. So that's pretty straightforward, right? You're using Salesforce, but you hate it for whatever reason, so you need to switch. So you go online and you try to find a different CRM, but then maybe you don't know other CRM solutions, or maybe you want, kind of like you're asking Google, give me something similar to Salesforce, but not Salesforce, right? So that's how they start that research process. And then the other two are kind of similar, but I would say sometimes buyers, kind of like what you said, they know the well-known brand. Everybody knows Salesforce. Everybody knows HubSpot. Everybody knows Pipedrive, right? But they might feel that's just the starting point for them. They might feel they're missing out on evaluating other alternatives that could be a good fit for them, or they might know HubSpot, but they also know that's not going to be a good fit for them because, I don't know, maybe pricing, right? Or because there's a specific feature that they need that HubSpot doesn't offer. So they already know they need something similar, but with that feature included, right? And then the other, the similar, sorry, I kind of like blank here. So this would be a good moment to make those edits. I was gonna say, oh yeah, I know what I wanted to say now. So, and then the third path on this research journey is that B2B buyers, there's no one single decision maker, or most of the time, there's not going to be just one person involved in the buying process. So you can't really pick one tool and decide this is the tool that we're going to choose, and that's it. You're going to get approval from finances, you're going to get approval from your CEO, you're going to get approval from users that are going to be on a daily basis spending time inside the tool. So when you're making that, when you're starting that evaluating process, you sometimes have to create a list of options, because other people are gonna tell you, okay, this is the kind of tool that we need. This one works, this one doesn't. So you go online and you search for HubSpot alternatives, because you need to come up with 2, 3, 5 different options, and then share that with the rest of your team and make a decision based on that. So there's different places where you're coming from, but they all end up requiring the same kind of content, which is answering the intent of why you should choose us versus them, and how we're different versus all these other tools.
Okay. And this brings me to my next question then, which is, in your experience, what will make a SaaS buyer, once they are on a comparison page, either an alternatives page or a VS page, what will make them sign up for a free trial or request a demo, or whatever the offering may be, after reading a comparison page? And I guess my question here is, what are the elements of a successful comparison page?
Yeah, great question. I would say the biggest success element for your comparison page is choose one thing, one main idea to highlight about your product, and then go all in with that on your comparison page. It doesn't matter how many sections or blocks your landing page has, everything should be tied back to that main idea. And that main idea could be different things, right? We try to think about this main narrative as an overlap between two, kind of like if you think about a Venn diagram, it will be the overlap between something that you are great at, because if it's not something you're strong at, then you're not going to be able to sell that. It needs to be something your users care about. Otherwise, you're going to be just promoting something that people don't want to buy. And then it needs to be, ideally, something your competitors can't match. Because if there's already a leader in terms of, I don't know, let's say you want to go with pricing, but there's already a different alternative that is clearly cheaper than the rest, then that's a positioning statement that you can't use anymore because someone else occupies that space. So it needs to overlap those three ideas. Once you find that, go all in describing that with your comparison page. And then that could be anything. That could be a feature that you have that no one else has, a true innovation in your product, which is harder to achieve, and it's getting even harder because it's easy to copy features. But it could be that. It could be you're the expert in a specific industry. And this is, if we continue with the example of CRMs, a lot of CRMs, new CRMs that are appearing, they know they can't go after the whole market. So they're going to be the CRM for agencies like Copper, or the CRM for architects, or the CRM for, I don't know, freelancers, right? So if you have a feature set, or if you have a product that is built around that vision, which is helping a particular segment of the market, and your competitors are not saying that, and they're generalist solutions, then that could be another angle. It could be pricing, of course, if you have a clearly cheap alternative. But it all depends on also your whole business strategy, right? So you can pick your angle, whatever it is, but make sure that once you've decided this is going to give you the clear edge versus the competition, make sure your comparison page talks about that from every point that can support that big idea.
That makes sense. So focus on one idea that obviously has to be something where you have a competitive edge. That makes sense. If we try to pose the question a bit differently and try to think about mistakes that SaaS companies do when it comes to their comparison pages.
Yeah, I would say because SEO, it's a very effective way to think about these comparison pages. You get them to rank, and then they start pulling traffic and very high intent traffic. Then a lot of people tend to over optimize for SEO. And something that happens a lot on these comparison pages is that the hero section, which is the one section of your landing page that 100% of your visitors are going to see, instead of telling me right away why or what makes you different from product B, then it's just a big headline that says, I don't know, HubSpot versus Salesforce, right? Or HubSpot versus Pipedrive. That's the whole headline, because they're optimizing for that keyword, but you're wasting time and you're not getting right away in telling me why I should pick you versus others. Because when I go to a comparison page and I read Pipedrive versus HubSpot, that's not really informing me. It's not giving me any reason to buy. It's just telling me, oh, yeah, this is a comparison page. Exactly what I needed, exactly why I clicked on this link. But now tell me, why should I buy from you and stop wasting my time? So I would say, and you can see this is tied back to this idea of going all in terms of selling your differentiation, right? So don't waste time getting to that point. And then another big issue that I see with comparison pages is that they tend to lead with feature differentiation. And a very clear symptom of this is that on their hero section or right below the hero section, boom, they paste or they put this endless feature comparison chart. And it's just, you keep scrolling and scrolling and you see all these X's and check marks. And that doesn't make a lot of sense for somebody that just lands on your comparison page. Because first of all, it's information overload. Nobody has the capacity to compare 30 different features and understand, oh, this feature means X, or this feature is going to have this kind of impact in the way that I work. And just by looking at the comparison chart and seeing the X on your competitor column and the check mark on your column, that's not going to tell them how their lives are going to be impacted. So before you bring out and whip out your comparison table, tell people at least at a highlight level what makes your product unique, why they should choose you, and then all the features that you talk about, tie them back to this big idea. And one of the strategies that we use is we don't have these endless comparison charts. Even if we have features where we're clearly winning versus certain competitors, sometimes we don't even include those in the comparison page because they're not related to that big idea that we want to reinforce, right? So if we're talking about, again, just an example, but if we're talking about pricing, maybe our whole comparison chart is going to be around pricing, right? And we have a free plan, they don't. We have a money back guarantee, they don't. We have a cheaper plan, they don't. And we don't talk about all the features that we have and they don't, because that doesn't correlate to that narrative. So make sure that if you're selling features, they are in context to and related to that bigger narrative, and make sure you don't give people these crazy long comparison tables and let them figure it out on their own, but explain to them how these features are going to fit in their lives.
Both points are great. Can I ask you, in your opinion, does it make sense to create both landing pages and blog posts for comparison purposes, like similar to what ClickUp does? What are your thoughts about that? And I guess like a question that's connected to that would be like, what is the ideal setup? Like, where should these pages live on a website?
Yeah, I would say if you have limited resources and you need to pick one kind of landing page or what kind of content asset, it could be the versus product A versus product B comparison page, or it could be kind of like a listicle where you target, I don't know, pipe drive alternatives, and then it's formatted like a blog article and you're reviewing multiple products in the same piece. I would say it depends on what stage you're on and how much traffic you're bringing to your site, and if this is mostly going to be an SEO strategy for you, right? So if it's mostly going to be an SEO strategy, maybe you want to get started with this with the listicle and target a keyword like, again, continuing with the CRM example, like HubSpot alternative or pipe drive alternative. And at the same time, you got to figure out if that keyword is too competitive for you. Maybe it's not a great idea right now. So you want to target lower competition keywords and try to drive traffic to those pages. So there's a lot to consider, actually. But then if you're a challenger brand, if you just launch your website, if you don't have a lot of traffic, if SEO still is not your main traffic generation avenue, then I would say go for the product versus product comparison page. Why? Because it's going to be a more flexible asset for you. Just the research that you can get from doing these comparison pages is going to allow you to answer that question in front of prospects. And this is something that is going to happen to you from day one. How are you different from X? People are going to be asking you this all the time. So knowing the answer to that at a scale is going to help you move those conversations closer to a sale. Having those pages on your website right away to answer that question for anybody that's going to your website is going to be a good idea. You can use those insights for your sales reps to communicate your winning positioning when talking to prospects. So if that's your case, then I would say go with the comparison, the product versus product comparison. And then just to make it even more SEO specific, I think there's two strategies here. The alternative to keyword tends to have more volume, right? And if you go on Google and just search for any kind of like Pipedrive alternative or alternative to Pipedrive, the kind of answer that or intent that Google is serving is closer to that listicle, right? Where you review multiple products and then people choose from that list. So if you're targeting that keyword and you have limited resources and you need to do just one piece, then do that one. And then the product versus product keyword tends to have lower volume, but at the same time, it has higher intent. Somebody that is searching for your product versus a competitor, they want to compare you versus them. And it's closer to a decision between just those two products. So that tells you that that buyer is closer to making a purchasing decision, right? And in that case, the structuring that landing page as a sales page instead of a more educational piece of content, it makes sense because you need to persuade them to choose you versus that particular competitor, right? And again, if you have more budget and if you can do both, I would do both and then interlink each other. So from the article, from the listicle, when you're listing, I don't know, let's say your Pipedrive, right? And you're targeting HubSpot alternatives with a listicle. When you're reviewing HubSpot, then you can link to your Pipedrive versus HubSpot comparison page, and that kind of like creates that interlinking or a cluster structure for all your competitive keywords.
That makes sense. As you were answering this question, another question came to my mind, which is, would you advise, let's say, a company that's not Pipedrive nor HubSpot, a new player, the new kid on the game, would you advise them to do a comparison page between Pipedrive versus HubSpot? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, of course, they are going to talk about their product eventually. Just they are focusing on two different solutions that it's not their solution.
Yeah, correct. Well, I have two answers for that question. Number one is, right now we're not offering that deliverable as part of our services. And that kind of like tells you right away, we're not prioritizing that kind of page. And the reason why is we understand the SEO approach of that, because if you're a new player, nobody's going to be searching for HubSpot versus you because nobody knows about your brand, right? So it doesn't have volume, doesn't generate traffic. You're publishing a landing page that no one gets to see. Now, there's a lot of volume for HubSpot versus Pipedrive, and you want to piggyback on that volume. So you want to create a HubSpot versus Pipedrive versus you article, right? Or maybe just HubSpot versus Pipedrive, and you do the whole review. And then at the bottom, this is the classic approach. At the bottom of the article, you tell people, well, but if you're looking for a third alternative or an alternative that does X, Y, Z, which none of these two products do, then you should choose us, right? And I would say, in terms of SEO, that might work. That might drive the traffic to your site. But the way we see it, it doesn't really answer the intent to that question, which is Pipedrive versus HubSpot. So the chances of converting that user is going to be way lower, right, than focusing your efforts on a different kind of comparison. And then it's going to be really hard to, in a piece that talks about Pipedrive versus HubSpot, push your way into the conversation, because you're like the third wheel. You're the alternative that they didn't even consider. So coming up with a selling point that beats not just one, but two of those competitors, and competitors are going to be probably the leaders in the market, because that's why there's volume for that keyword, is going to be harder. So I would prioritize other competitive assets before that one.
That makes sense. And I think that we had similar experiences with our clients, meaning that we have seen that those pages that target, product vs product keywords,
mm-hmm.
but not for you, I mean, not for the company itself, don't tend to convert so well. So I think that's, we agree here. Maybe it makes you feel good about yourself, the fact that you're driving this traffic, but I think that, what you mentioned earlier about intent, it doesn't really answer the question, is a critical point here. And, this may be the reason, this may explain why these pages don't convert as well. Now, another question that I have for you, and I'm very curious about your thoughts on that. What do you think is the role of review and affiliate sites like G2 and Capterra or GetUp in the SaaS buyer journey? Since there is a lot of visibility from these websites on the search engine results pages for alternative keywords, for VS, product VS product keywords, and so on.
Yeah, these aggregator sites, they tend to dominate some of those comparison-based searches. And even though we might be competing versus them when we launch these comparison pages for our clients, we still have a lot of respect for these sites, because reviews are critical in the buying journey. I don't know the specific stat, but I think somewhere around 90% of people say that reading reviews is part of their research process. So it's really important. These sites fulfill a very important part of the research process. And not just that, so you want to invest in being having visibility there, right? Not just for the sake of having positive reviews, but also because if somebody's going to be searching for your brand, even if you don't get to rank your comparison page on top, at least you're going to appear as a result on G2, on Capterra. And if you have positive reviews, and if you have an angle versus those competitors, then all the SERP is going to be leaning in your favor, right? Because no matter, like position number one could be G2, position number two could be Capterra, position number two, let's say, is going to be your landing page. But if all those three positions say that you are the best option, or you are the better option for certain kind of people, or if you have certain features that your competitor doesn't have, there's going to be a lot of consistency in how people are getting that answer, right? And that is critical. And we put a lot of effort in terms of mining reviews when we do our research because of that, and because we want to mirror what we see on those reviews. Because again, if buyers are going to G2 to form their opinion, then they go on one of our comparison pages, and if they've been reading G2, and let's say they read about our competitor that I don't know, their customer service sucks, takes a long time to get an answer, nobody knows what they're talking about, terrible customer support, right? And they start forming this idea of, I don't know, maybe I like those features, but it seems like customer support is not going to be great. And then they go on our website, and our whole angle is built around, we have the same features and way better customer support. Then that kind of consistency creates immediate persuasion, because it confirms the hesitation that they come to your comparison page to, and tells them And it eases their mind. It tells them, if customer service is something that you care about, we can give you that. And this competitor can't, because you've read it on all of these reviews. And then the whole SERP is leaning in your favor in terms of converting them to your product.
That makes sense. And I think that, like, as you said, it is a part of the customer journey, and also trying to understand what are or identify the underlying patterns or the very obvious ones, and try to use those patterns in your copy, like in messaging and so on. It makes perfect sense. Now, as we are running out of time, I have a couple more questions for you.
Sure.
One would be, what do you think the future holds for SaaS companies regarding comparison marketing? Is it going to be more comparison pages? Is it going to be something else that we haven't seen yet? What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. I don't usually like to guess the future because I get it wrong. But I would say it's getting really crowded in SaaS, and it's getting crowded by the minute. More and more competitors are popping up in every single space: project management, CRM, sales enablement. Everywhere is getting more and more competitive. And the more competitors you have, the more buyers are going to need you to answer that question and tell them how you differentiate versus them, and not just on comparison pages, throughout and across all your marketing, right? It's not just related to the stuff that we do. Every single day, SaaS companies need to do a better job at differentiating themselves, unless you're already the market leader, right? And then you've talked about these new challenger brands. They use this comparison-based angle to dominate the ranks, the SERP really quick, to start winning that, what we call the low-hanging fruit. People are ready to convert, ready to make a purchasing decision. So the more companies are doing these pages, the harder also is going to be for them to become effective, because buyers also get used to that kind of messaging, and it kind of like starts losing the appeal, right? So the more competitors appear, the more comparison pages are published, the more sophisticated you're going to have to be in terms of thinking through the strategy behind your page, and then executing that page in a way that still convinces, persuades, and leaves people with a good taste in their mouth, right? So I would say, yeah, it's going to get more competitive, and chances are it's going to be even more critical and like a fundamental part of lead generation for SaaS. Yeah.
Do you think that showing that you are as like less unbiased as possible is also something important that we may see more in the future? Meaning that, you know, people when they are in a comparison page of company A, they know that company A is a bit biased towards, you know, itself, and against obviously the competitor. Do you think that, you know, being a bit more honest about the things that we may not be as good, but you know what,
Sure.
the main theme here, the thing that we know you're interested in, we are better in that, but we also lack in these things. Do you think that this is also something that we may see more of, or that you think is important for comparison pages?
Yeah, I think honesty gives you, what honesty does in marketing is that the minute people read you being honest about something that, a feature that you don't have, or something you're lacking on, that barrier of, oh, this company is trying to sell to me, kind of like becomes lower. It goes down. So they're more inclined to paying attention to your messaging and being receptive of your messaging. That's what honesty creates in copywriting. So I think that's a good angle for your comparison pages in general. You don't need to force it in if it doesn't fit. If you're a clear winner in multiple like things or selling points, then you might not want to dwell too long in telling people like, oh yeah, we don't have this, or honestly, we're not the best fit for X buyer, but then we're a better fit for this other kind of buyer. So you don't want to stop too much time there. But there's ways, there are elegant ways to execute that. A great example is Drift, where on their comparison page, they kind of like start by a node to Intercom, who basically created and it's a pioneer in this space. And then from that point on, they start selling their solution. But I think that the critical aspect is maybe don't focus too much on your weaknesses, but make sure that you're telling people you're not the best. The best doesn't really exist. There's no one best solution, but you're definitely a better fit for certain kind of buyer. The reason why so many companies exist and are trying to solve the same problem is because they're all created somehow differently, right? Their founders, their teams, they think about the problem in a slightly different way, even if it is the same problem. So they're always going to be creating a solution that is going to be slightly different. And that means it's going to be attracting different segments of the market. So instead of trying to be the best for everyone, just tell people this is who we're better for, and this is why. And then you don't even need to say, and this is what we're not so great at, because they're going to assume that, and they're going to fill in those gaps, and they might not even care. So why bring it up in the first place?
That makes sense. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Federico, thank you very much. Last question I have for you. Where can people find out more about you and Stack Against and get in touch if they'd like to?
Sure. Stackagainst.com. They can check out our website. They can see a little bit of our process there, the kind of customers that we work with, our pricing packages too. And then if you want to follow me, I mostly publish stuff on LinkedIn. So you find me as Federico Jorge there. And I talk about all things competitive marketing and comparison pages. So if you're interested in that topic, then you're welcome to connect and follow.
That's great. We will drop any relevant links to the show notes. That was all very
Awesome.
insightful, and for a topic that I know many SaaS companies, if not all, are interested in. So thank you very much for doing this, and looking forward to future discussions like this.
Absolutely. It's been great coming to your show, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Before you go, I'd like to give a quick shout out to the sponsor for this episode, Ahrefs. Ahrefs provides you with an all-in-one SEO toolset that does everything from rank tracking to backlink analysis, keyword research, and technical audits. The best part, you can now use Ahrefs Webmaster Tools for free to identify and prioritize optimization opportunities for your website, see all the keywords that your web pages are ranking for, take a close look at the websites that link back to and refer you in their content, and analyze other websites to find out what drives their rankings. Visit ahrefs.com/AWT and sign up for free.